think we're rocking.
Okay. All right.
So we could start things off, I suppose. I'm not going to do any kind of intro, but who the fuck is Clint?
Wow. We really.
I want to ask the most awkward question to start.
Right. Who is Clint? Well, I should start with this. The Clint Walker today is not the same Clint Walker that he was in high school. Not the same Clint Walker he was when he moved to Montana. Gone through a few evolutions. I think people do. Being a father, I try to enforce that with my children, actually, that, the guy that I am today is the result of trying and failing, number one, and, maybe a few successes somewhere in there. But we evolve as people. So today, gosh, I am a father, a coach, entrepreneur, counselor in some cases, a mentor in others, and I'm pretty comfortable with that, where I'm at. I'm actually very content.
So you're better than you were in high school.
Yeah, I've been exceeding my high school counselor's expectations of me since 1991.
Is that still on your bio?
That's what it says on my bio. I didn't know what else to say. I mean, in high school, I'll never forget going. You do your aptitude tests and stuff, and the placement tests and whatever, what you want to do vocationally, whatever. And my counselor, who was named Mr. Inch, first name was Dick.
Of course it was.
Dick Inch, and I asked him if he was in the military. He said no, but that would have been rad, right? Inch Dick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I took these tests, and he was basically like, hey, you could work as a porter at a hotel, shuttling people's luggage and shit up to their rooms, or work for the post office. That's where I got placed. And that's when I knew that the educational system's a fucking fraud. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was bored in high school. I didn't think I was challenged really academically. And what a lot of people didn't know that I was going to school with and played football with is I worked full time. I moved out when I was, I'd moved out before I left home before I was 16, and I worked full time. So, when my buddies we got out of football practice and they were all going to fuck off and eat pizza and play video games, I was riding my bike from the high school down to my work. I worked for a grocery store called Ralph's there in Orange County, California. And I worked from 8 p.m. to midnight every single night. I cleaned the meat room there, and I had that job because I had really good health benefits. So when I get hurt playing football, I had health insurance. And
intuition.
But I lived on my own, and so when my teachers would give me homework, I never did homework. Not one time in high school did I ever do homework. And I had a economics teacher. He was like, "Look, man, you're going to fail. You're not going to graduate high school if you don't pass this class. I don't get it." And I said, "Dude, so that when you assign me homework, you're cutting into my work."
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think we should be doing that work in the classroom because that's your job, and my job starts after school.
I share the sentiment. Yeah. And
he, was kind of offended by that, didn't agree with it. And I don't think he believed me that I lived on my own. So I gave him my address. He actually showed up at my house once. It was right before Thanksgiving. I'll never forget. Knocked on my door, opened the door. He's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Shit, it's a fucking school teacher at my door. What's up? Did I do something wrong?" And he came in. I didn't have any furniture or anything, and he just started crying because he was like, "Fuck, this is shitty," And I was like, "Yeah, no kidding. That's my fucking life, dude." But I didn't want my friends to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're kind of getting off track here, maybe getting a little dark.
Really?
But yeah, that was my high school experience. So when I left high school, never looked back. Didn't keep up with a whole lot of people, just a few. And it was all about the journey, and I'm happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't that school thing. I don't really like when you mentioned the homework.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my kids go to public school. I was homeschooled, so which probably explains a lot.
I can tell. Yeah.
So, but the homework. My kids come home with homework, and like my oldest is 10, and it kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're there for 8-9 hours a day, for 8 hours a day or so, for 5 days a week. What are we doing?
Yeah.
At school, because I haven't been to public school, so I don't know what's going on in there. I mean, I know because I go to parent-teacher conferences and stuff, kind of understand what they're generally doing. But why are we doing homework at home?
So I've looked into that myself because I had the same kind of frustration, and really this actually backdates to like the No Child Left Behind Act, which was like a George Bush legacy, I believe. And when they put that out there, I mean, it sounds good, but what it did is it put a lot of pressure on the teachers. So you have teachers that are, educated a couple more years, they could be doctors for Christ's sake. They're making, shit wages in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. And then they had this requirement for aptitude and so on that not only for the students, but for them. So the teachers are actually going to school after school in a lot of cases to go get further educated so that they can move up in their career and try to keep up with these standards that were fairly unrealistic. So that's in part what drives it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm told. And, of course, budgets and all these other things play into that. But, it's not all on the teachers.
No, I don't think it necessarily is either.
Yeah.
Like, it's just maybe not a broken system, a planned system.
Well, it's a government system.
There's so much time spent. There's so much time spent within the school, and like, I don't feel like you're getting that much.
So I think the real thing is really, like you mentioned, public school. When you go from public school to private school, and my kids went to both. In private school, they were further ahead than the public school. And why is that? Well, like, name a government organization that runs efficiently. Like one.
U.S. Postal Service.
No, U.S. Postal Service is in the red year after year, and nearly bankrupt, and probably will be someday. But there aren't any.
No.
That's just it. So I think privatization for school is a key there. But I don't want to get too anti-government, but I really don't like the fucking government.
Me either.
Yeah. Things like moving in my face. It's like,
yeah, we're working on it.
In and out. It's not just like up and down.
Face?
It just goes back and forth. So I'm like, I don't know whether to lick it or speak into it. But you put something in my face, I'm gonna fucking taste it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some business stuff.
Okay.
So, first off, startups. You've got a lot of startups over your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you didn't, in most of them are in the firearms industry, yeah?
But you never. I would say most of my businesses have been in the firearm industry. Yes.
But you didn't originate in the firearms industry.
No. Again, not to get too off track, but maybe this is the track. I don't really know. When the career ideas that I had in mind didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think about college until the day I graduated because I was working, like I said, and I had this idea that I wanted to go into law enforcement, and which is kind of crazy because in high school I got into a lot of trouble. I stole cars and shit like that. Not like breaking the window and stealing the car, but like punching somebody in the fucking face and taking the car. That was what I did in high school. And I coach high school football now, and I tell my players this. I tell my players that I got into trouble, and I want them to know that I was a shitbag, and that there's always a way back, right? And it was a coach of mine who was a correctional officer. His name is Coach Coonrad. He was a linebacker coach at my high school, and he worked in the prison at the Orange County Jail. And he was like, "Man, you're smart, you got talent, all this stuff. Don't fucking waste it." And he was the only person in my life, the only man in my life that told me that.
Mm-hmm.
So after I graduated, I was like, "Shit, I better get my shit together." and couldn't get hired. This is like at the peak of affirmative action. So I graduated high school in 1991. Affirmative action was a big thing then, which basically affirmative action is if you're white, you don't get hired. That's really what it is, and the standards were completely unrealistic. But anyway, that was what I originally intended to do. Could not get hired, didn't work out. Through a series of failing at different things, I wound up back to installing car stereos, and because I uninstalled them previously, so I knew how to install them, and I worked.
Can you look at something after this?
At a place in Orange County near Anaheim Stadium called Orange County Speaker Works, and we did some incredible installs and built some competition cars, built some that were very dominant in that era. Of course, the 90s, it was like the peak of this stuff. It was fucking awesome. And a magazine came in to do a feature on one of the cars that we had built. And I told the guy I'd taken pictures and did notes through the whole process, and I gave that all to this writer. And he's like, "Man, you're pretty fucking good at this. Maybe you could freelance for us someday." I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So I started freelancing for a magazine called Auto Sound and Security, and then that evolved to me doing some writing for a magazine called Mini Truckin', later Truckin', and they want to offer me a job as a feature editor on Mini Truckin', which I didn't really know much about mini trucks at the time. But it was kind of a gateway into consumer print publishing.
What are mini trucks?
What are mini trucks?
Yeah.
Slammed, lowered trucks that look badass, that cruise down the road about that high off the road and throw sparks when they're going 7 miles an hour. Yeah. That's stuff that generally in our industry now, we see guys driving and we're like, "Fuck that guy, man. Fucking lowered truck, piece of shit, criminal." Mini truckers are the fucking truth, dude. That's the real shit right there. So shout out to my mini trucking nation out there. Negative camber. Yeah. Yeah, that was it. I wound up working at this publishing company called McMullen Argus, and that's where I met my now wife. And she'll tell you I was the first one in the office, last one to leave. If there was an assignment that came up, I'm like, I'll fucking go. I loved it, loved the job. And a lot of the people I work with I thought were fairly lazy. So I knew I could get to the top pretty fast. And within 2.5 years, I was the group editorial director of the largest publishing company in the world. I was just working my ass off. And again, high school educated, dyslexic, never took a writing class, never took a photography class, and I was just driven. Those dudes I was working with, they didn't work midnight to midnight cleaning the meat room when they were in high school. You know what I mean? So it was about that grind. Anyway, the company got sold several times, and I would get sold along with it. It was, kind of when the .com thing was starting to come in, and people were saying magazines are going to go away and all this shit. So, long story short, my wife and I decided to. We'd gotten married at this point, so we're a few years into this relationship. We get married, and I tell her one day, I said, "You know what? I want to move to Montana." And this is like in our first few weeks of being married.
Nice.
And I'd been coming up here, fly fishing and stuff for years, just living in my car and whatnot. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm down with that." So we lived in Tustin, California. We had like 9 cars at the time. Mini trucking, you got fancy cars and shit. I had Cadillacs, all those badass cars. Sold them all. Moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Eugene, Oregon. Shout out to the Ducks. Sorry that they lost yesterday. And we started our publishing company.
In Montana?
No, we were in Eugene, Oregon at the time.
Right.
But we were on our way. It was cheaper. There weren't really you couldn't go online and find apartments and stuff that were for rent in Montana, but we could in Eugene, Oregon, because there was a school there, you know. So that's where we went first. And anyway, we started a magazine called DVD Etc. and later a magazine called HDTV Etc. And I was the editor-in-chief for those. So I used to edit several technology magazines, believe it or not. And over the course of 12 years or so, we evolved that company into doing, you know, multiple magazines and publications in various states. Evolved it to a marketing company as well. And we sold that company to Maury Povich, Connie Chung, back in 2013.
Why is it? That sounds familiar. Maury Povich.
Maury Povich is the, you know, you go on his talk show and the girl accuses you of being a baby daddy, and then you get your DNA tested, and then you're not the dad, so
Jerry
you
Springer,
celebrate.
Jerry Springer type.
Very Jerry Springer type, yeah. But anyway, we sold the company to them in 2013, so they own like the Flathead Beacon and some other stuff up here, yeah. And started Nemo Arms after that, the firearm company. That was my first entry into the firearm space, was right around 2012, roughly.
And you were living in Montana?
Montana, yeah. We moved here. We actually moved here full time in 2003. So we've been here a minute, and up here we owned that magazine Flathead Living, which you see around town. So we started that. We had Missoula Living and some travel magazines and stuff all throughout the Pacific Northwest. We did outdoor magazines for the Forest Foundation, a number of different things. And it was really just my wife and I. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was a great era. You know, we had the kids, and we could see that the print side of magazines were starting to slow down, and you know, technology was the way. But anyway, I got into manufacturing firearms. Why? You know, still, you know, kind of a mystery. I was always into firearms when I was a kid. When I started Nemo Arms, I owned one AR-15 that I'd owned for maybe, I don't know, 6 months. Manufactured locally here by a company called SI Defense at the time, and I was on the board for the state's economic development at that point. And they didn't know that I was some mini trucker thug felon that barely graduated high school. They just saw me as a successful local entrepreneur, right? So that's
what a nice guy.
Right? Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like, what's your resume? The resume is like the work that you're putting out on the newsstand and how people perceive you in the community. And of course, we were very philanthropic. We funded a lot of different local initiatives, sports, and just different things. We did a lot of support. And, you know, people just don't ask. They don't ask what your opinion is. They don't ask what your opinion is when you have money falling out of your pockets, right? Which, by the way, is kind of hilarious, right? Because there's always this perception that because somebody has money, that they're smarter than the guy that doesn't, okay? And that's couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth, right? Now there are guys that or they think because you have money that your parents, you know, you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, and your parents paid for all the
must
shit.
Be nice crowd,
right? So there's a lot of that misconception. And by the way, I carried that chip on my shoulder. I curated that chip from the time I was a kid, and I still carry that chip to this day. Which has actually driven me to be successful, believe it or not. I mean, it might be sad if, you know, for some people to think about, but for me, it drove me. I didn't want people to judge me for who they thought I was based on, you know, a snapshot of me at that time in my life. You know, when they see our first house was in Whitefish, you know, 7 bedrooms and all this shit, you know, they're, oh my God, look at this guy. Oh wow, he must be really smart and, you know, whatever. But you know, just a few years prior to that, my wife and I are living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Eugene, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we could afford.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so I wound up working on the state's economic development board. We had kids, and I learned that, you know, the number one export of Montana is our children. There are no jobs here. You have to create one, and every guy in this room knows it, right? Everyone knows that you have to create a job when you come to Montana, or you're going to be pounding nails or selling real estate. That's your options, okay? And I thought, you know, I'm in a position now where we were comfortable financially. I come from a school of hard knocks, and I want to support people that come from that background. And so I thought the best way of doing that was to help, you know, develop some of the businesses here in Montana so that kids that grow up here would have a place to work or thrive. So I started really studying the firearms sector because I had a lot of interest in it. And we tried to attract a number of companies to come to Montana, but Montana wasn't really putting out much to attract companies here. Like when you moved your business here, right? It's not like they said, "Hey, we'll give you a break on your taxes, and we'll you know, help you find a shop, and we'll get you this," right?
Yeah. Because like when I called you a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and I was like, you gave me some info, and I went and followed through and called.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, no, we can try and help you find a shop or something."
Yeah.
Like
I personally did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the organization, there's a private organization called Montana West Economic Development, and that's who I was on the board of. And what I realized is it was a bunch of dudes that had money because they had made money in whatever business, and they set up this thing that said economic development. Think, you know, making small businesses think, if you come to us, we'll actually help you get a foot up. When in all actuality, it just gives all of these guys the first like crack at, let me be an investor in your business, because all of the companies that I've tried to help, you know, like, hey, contact these guys, and none, all of them, it's been like, oh, well, you need this and you need that. And in other words, if you're a successful business and you've got cash in hand and you've got all this stuff figured out, then we'll support you. Mm-hmm. Well, then why the fuck would you need that?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's really come to kind of piss me off. So when you were looking for a place, and I can't remember who put us in touch. Who put you in touch?
It was Vaughn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, the Man Spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vaughn put us in touch, and then I was like, let me see if I can find something for you. And I did, right? I found you a shop to rent, all that. At any rate, we're still far behind in terms of helping businesses get established and so on. And now, because of the COVID migration, you know, and Yellowstone, you know, fuck you, Yellowstone. Great show. Great show. Fucking horrible if you live
What could
here.
have been Wyoming,
Yeah.
North Dakota.
Yeah. But actually, though, I say that, but when I leave here, I'm going to go put my fucking hip boots on and a fucking flat brim hat and walk around down in Whitefish and smoke a cigar. Yeah, so, you know, Montana's changed, right? But when we got it started up, it was like I'd done all this research in the firearm space, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'll just start my own. Because I realized, especially on the AR-15 platform, is that a lot of companies don't make their own shit. So I was like, well, shit, I could just basically do a variance, get another company to make parts for me with my name on them, and then it's just a marketing company. Well, hello, I know marketing, you know. And anyway, as it turns out, we also had a tiger by the tail because we decided to develop the first 300 Win Mag, you know, AR platform in the Omen. So, you know, we had a lot of things go our way in that process, but that was my entry into the firearm space. So I say that, and I'm transparent about these things because I want, again, I want people to realize that even though they're here and they're not this person, but the person that they envision themselves being is right here,
Mm-hmm.
that it's just a matter of you changing your own perception. I mean, I liken it to, and I'm not like an alternative lifestyle type of, person that, is sitting in sweat lodges and shit, smoking peyote. But I do believe that, effectively we're like a computer. People are.
Mm.
And that like a computer, you can program yourself. You can actually physically program yourself to say these are the traits that I am and or desire, and you will become that person. And it's, you could call it whatever you want. Power of positive self-talk, whatever you want that to be, but there's truth to it. And I know that it's true because I test it, once a week during the football season, because I convince a bunch of freshman kids that have never met each other to come together and play a sport and win football, based on who I tell them that they are, and convince them that they are, and encourage them to convince themselves that they are. And it's an amazing transformation. And the reason that I coach is because I had a coach do that for me. And that's what I took away from that sport, was that I controlled that aspect of it. Just like negative self-talk leads to negative things happening. Okay. So anyway, I think I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here.
We don't have a set course for this, but I think I totally agree, because I used to be pretty like down on myself, like pretty negative person, like about me personally, anyways. And had some life trauma things happen, and I hit this wall and developed a whole new, had like a coach, and started developing a positive thinking like mindset toward, like, it was one thing and it was this and it was that, and like, so when I started my business, or not after I started my business, this happened, but it ended up being to where I can make $1 million, or I can make a successful business. I can have these employees. It was like, I hope I can do that. It went from that to, I am that person. My grit is going to get us there, and my determination is going to get us there. Instead of like, I think I can do this, it's like, yeah, I can do this. And then every day, I can do this. Yeah. I can do this. It's stupidly powerful. Like now, nothing can really bother me, because it goes to anything, like emotions, like, because like we all have emotions, we all get sad, depressed, or whatever else. It's what you do in those states that makes the difference. Yeah. And when you're in a depressed state, I think the key is how long you stay there. Like, if you're staying there for days, months, years, you're letting that negative thought, that process, recycle over and over and over again. Yeah. So like when you take and find some cues, I don't know if you do this, like I have certain cues. Like when I hit a certain point, I'll ask myself certain questions. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling depressed? What's my problem? What's in my diet is a question I always ask. And
I don't ask that question. You can physically tell, unless it's got delicious alcohol in it.
Why am I crying? Have I been drinking wine?
Well, if I can interject something here, Tim. So, first of all, I will take time with people that are looking for some direction. I will always take the time if I have the time to take. And I don't have a very big group of friends. Okay. Because despite what people see on, in my social media or whatever, they think I'm this outgoing personality, I'm really not. I rather be alone, or with my family or a small group of people, but I'm not afraid to be bold. So you can expect that at a party or whatever, I'm not afraid to interact with anybody to that level. I just prefer not to be at the party to begin with. But that being said, I've had a number of people over the years say, "Hey, would you help me with this and mentor me or whatever, or give me some direction?" And what I realized very quickly about you is that you're a doer. You don't you don't fire for effect. You're not coming in and saying, dude, I need to find a shop and I need to grow my business. I need to do all these things because you want to impress me based on your ambition. There are a lot of people out there like that, by the way. All they do is run their fucking mouth, okay? And very few people actually put those thoughts into action. You're one of the few people that I know that puts just about every thought into action. Okay, I've noticed that about you over the last couple of years. We've gotten to know each other. So Tim and I have been getting together, having coffee, and just catching up and checking in on the progress of the business. I've seen the first shop that he had, which looks nothing like this incredible facility that you have now. Okay, and I'm impressed. Okay, I want you to know that. Okay, and I'm not trying to sit over here and suck your dick or something, but what I'm saying is that, you know, you're single dad. A lot of people don't know that. Okay, you got like what, how many fucking kids do you have? There's like 3 of them running around here. Okay, I mean, they're feral, but they're your children. Okay, and no, but you're like, what I've seen about you is that, you know, when you're in dad mode, you're fucking 100% in dad mode. I'm going to be super dad, and when you're in business mode, I'm 100% that. When you're in be a friend mode, hang out, encourage somebody, you're 100% dedicated to that. There's not too many people like that. So you will be successful if you allow yourself to be. Okay.
Check.
And that is when you talk about getting depressed. You know, I go through this myself. Okay. Social media. If I keep going down the fucking rabbit hole on social media, the more time I spend on social media, the worse I feel about myself. Unequivocally. Okay. Why? You can call it the dopamine dump. You can call it, you know, comparing myself. I don't give a fuck what anybody else has, right? I've got everything I need. But I do see things on social media. I'm like, ooh, shit, that'd be nice too, right? But I don't feel good when I'm on social media a lot. So I have to really regulate myself that way. And, you know, I have to align myself every morning. You know, I basically, you know, sit and there's a couple books that I'll read a little bit of in the morning just to get my mind right, and then I just go throughout the day. Football season, I don't need that because I got a group of kids that, you know, I've been tasked to inspire and lead, and I take that very seriously. So
It's a big enough drive for you.
I just drive, yeah. But there are times when things slow down. You know, I don't have any meetings on the schedule or whatever, and I'm just kind of going, man, where am I at? If I have a fault that I'm really trying to work on, it's just being content. I just need to be content. But it could be argued, Tim, that not being content is what drives you from the shop that you started with to the shop that you know, had as your interim to this to what, you know, 3.0 looks like someday.
Yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of people take discontentment negatively when they should be looking at discontent with ungratefulness.
Yeah.
Like if you pair the two together, that's bad.
Right.
But if you're discontent to a degree, now it could be the off kilter. That might be, you know, but I'm not ungrateful to a degree. I would like to think that anyways. So I think I think it's huge to, because that's what drive me. Like, not enough, not good enough. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, and in part, so here's something I would, you know, share with you that made me successful in all of my businesses. Okay. And, you know, there are businesses that are product driven and profit driven. Okay. Every business that I've ever owned, and that is to this day, is product driven, not profit driven. I believe that the profit is a byproduct of the product. You have to love your customer. If you truly love your customer and respect your customer and that experience, when they get this thing that you make, that you said this is the best, and by the way, you make, you know, holsters, right? How many thousands of people make holsters right now in this country, right? In their shop, in their garage, there's a few that are bigger names, right? So it's not just all marketing, right? It's got to be product driven. You have to care about your customer and what their experience is when they receive the product.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then it'll fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people this, the fastest way to kill a brand is to market it. What the fuck does that mean? Well, what that means is when you're just focused on that profit aspect, then you will do things like go to market too early. It's not quite where I want it to be, but let's get it out there anyway because I want to fucking get that new boat.
Right.
A perfect example of that would be the as seen on TV shit. Whether it's the freaking Ginsu knife or the ShamWow chamois or,
Flex Seal.
whatever. Flex Seal. Almost sunk my fucking boat. Flex. No. That shit does not fucking work, by the way. Yeah, and if that guy wasn't dead, I would fucking kill him. Okay? Didn't he die like a fucking piece of luggage hit him in the head when he was getting off a plane and he had an aneurysm and died later? I think it was that guy. It was either him or the ShamWow dude.
I don't know.
One of them. Both of them fucking annoy me. I go to trade shows all over the country hoping I'll run into one of those fucks just so I can fucking punch assassinate them. So, anyway, you got the Ginsu knife, whatever it is. Like, fuck, this thing's amazing, right? Like, I want to fucking cut Coke cans in half.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to fucking do that, right? I can cut a fucking Coke can. I can definitely slice a tomato. But then all of a sudden it goes away. Right? You don't see the commercial anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. This is the best fucking knife ever made.
Mm-hmm.
The best ShamWow, chamois, freaking dries up any freaking mess, whatever. What happened to that thing? And then you go to Target or Walmart or something and you cruise the back aisle, and I'm a back aisle guy, there's like...
In that clearance section back there.
Yeah, it's clearance section. Yeah, right? As seen on TV, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Says it right there. As seen on TV, and there's your stuff. Why is that?
Too much marketing, not focused.
Too
on
much
the
marketing,
product,
but to who? See, what happens is they encourage people. They're going out and let's just take a neighborhood, okay? And I've got 150 people in my neighborhood, which I don't, thank God. But if I had 150 people in my neighborhood and 2 people buy that Ginsu knife and whatever, and then they go, "Wow, this thing's a piece of shit," and then they tell their friends it's a piece of shit. What they've done is they've spread that message so fast that the shitty product even spreads even faster, and then it goes away. It markets itself to death. And so if the product isn't there, if it doesn't live up to the expectation, i.e. what you're stating is going to be the customer experience, then the customer votes with their wallet. And now today they vote online too, because they're going to go on your page and they're going to say, "Tim, that fucking chest rig that you sold me that you said was badass, my pistol falls out of it all the time," right? And you're going to say, "You bought so-and-so. What's a competitor?" I don't fuck a competitor. Anyway, it doesn't happen with Tim's shit.
We don't pay attention.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? Because if that happened, you can bet that they're going to go tell everybody about it. And then you're going to be the guy that's in your garage, making these things and selling them at a gun show on weekends, okay? And in the firearm industry, we're actually plagued with companies like that. Okay, it's a Me Too industry, number one, right? High entry barrier, right? But it's a Me Too industry. You work in the same, field effectively that I do. I make AR-15s, and everybody on the planet makes an AR-15, right? So am I going to get offended that another AR-15 company starts up and is going, I don't give a shit.
I don't even pay attention.
I am famous in the industry for inviting my competitors to the party every year, right? And why? Because I want them to know, number one, I want to, there's room for everybody. I cannot build enough firearms to satisfy the appetite of the people that want them, okay? So I don't care that other people do, right? But just because someone, builds it under a different brand doesn't mean I need to hate them. There's a lot of people in this industry, by the way, because there's a lot of fucking children that run companies in this fucking industry. They will come after you simply because you're doing the same thing that they do. Isn't that fucking dumb?
It's like I get accused all the time, like with Invader Concepts. Copy. It's like,
right.
what company are you even talking about?
Right.
For one, like I just don't care enough to pay attention to you as a competitor.
Right.
Like I'm gonna crush you.
Yeah.
But they're Ford, Chevy,
Right.
like there's only a certain way you can do, like put a holster together. I mean, Ford, a Camaro and a Mustang, they're different, but they accomplish a relatively similar goal. It's like it's the same thing. It's like have you not bought a different screwdriver from Irwin versus Milwaukee? Like get out of here.
Yeah. Are those same people trolling Milwaukee?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's an open market.
Oh, nice drill, copycatter.
Like,
Give me a fucking break.
So dumb.
For years, I have companies that we have a booth at SHOT Show to this day. I just don't go anymore. But for years, it was like the carnival effect. I had a booth at the show so that those competitors that talk shit at me, they had an open invitation. Come by my booth, talk shit, and I'll punch you in the fucking face. Okay?
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. Okay? But it exists. And if I'm being honest, it helps me to curate that chip on my shoulder too.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget with Nemo Arms going to the second SHOT Show that I'd been to. Things are going pretty well. First off, so Nemo Arms, for the people that don't know, we invented the world's first 300 Win Mag AR-15 platform rifle. Number one, heard for a year, cannot be done, can't be done. And this was done in an era when people were still having issues getting a 308 to cycle reliably, which, by the way, there are still a number of companies that can't seem to get a fucking 308 to work. Just get out of business. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done looking at that, right? So we did a 300 Win, and we want it to be precise, okay? It needed to be accurate, which a lot of it's easy to build something that's inaccurate, and then it's easy to build something relatively now that's accurate, but then it's difficult to put that into production. Okay, so there's a lot of obstacles ahead of that. But I had so many people saying it can't be done, that it can't be done, it can't be done, it can't be done. It was like it drove me every single day. Yeah. That's no problem. My entire life is can't be done. Can't be done.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when it is, I tell people this: if I had $1 for every person that told me that I couldn't, oh, wait a minute, I do. Fuck you. Okay. That's how I made my money in the firearm space, is by doing what people could not be done and doing it at the highest level. And then what happened? Everybody fucking copied me. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which is fine. Okay. But I'll never forget my second SHOT Show that I went to. Now I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I had a budget of $10,000 to spend on some red dot optics. Okay. Now, when we started the company, we started it in my garage here in Kalispell. Very garage type operation. There were a handful of guys that were involved in the development of that rifle. Shout out to Dan Knightsling and Josh Sanju and Aaron McGinty and others on that project. But now we're kind of making it, right? People are buying it, and it's working, and people love it. Well, I had one optic when we started it, and it was in every single marketing piece that we had done, right? It's a freaking a Night Force optic. It was $3,500, and that was the only optic that we had to market our gun. And so I go to SHOT Show, and I go to EOTech's booth because I was going to buy some red dots for some of the smaller ARs, right? I'm all excited. I got $10,000, right?
Oh, I love this story. I remember.
And I get there, and I'm standing in the booth, and people are walking past me, and they're just not paying any attention to me. And finally, I'm like, "Hey, bud, I'm here to make an order. I'd like to make an order, like get on, as one of your manufacturers at buy." And he goes, "Oh, yeah. Who are you?" Clint Walker. I'm with Nemo Arms. "Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I haven't heard of you guys, but what's your budget?" I said, $10,000. Right? I'm all proud. And he goes, yeah, I'll tell you what. In here, this is like where our real dealers and stuff are. But if you walk outside of our booth and right over to the side, there's some iPads there, and you can put in your information and you can tell them what you want. We'll have some fucking peon follow up with you. Mm-hmm. I was fucking livid. Okay. Well, I made it a mission that EOTech would then be begging me to put their optics on my firearm. That's how fucking pissed off I was. And that's okay, by the way, in business. It's okay to be motivated by those things. It's just not okay to be distracted by them, right? There are people that will, have that happen, and then they'll self-destruct. They will actually go fulfill whatever the naysaying is that put them into that negative space, okay? But for me, I'm not going to do negative self-talk. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to fucking show that motherfucker, okay? And that's exactly what I did. That by the next year, their marketing people were reaching out, hey, we saw that you put a Trigicon on your rifle in this, ad. Do you think we could get you out some thing? I said, yeah, go ahead to get this. You're going to love this. Send me some of those out. Send them out. So they did. So I took their optics and I set them in my lawn next to dog shit. And I took a photo and I posted them next to dog shit. And then I sent it back to the guy and I said, this is where your optics belong. Fuck you. And that drove me. It did. People can say it's childish. You can say whatever you want. I don't really fucking care. It's my business. I can do whatever I want with it, right? Subsequently, I was voted out of that company. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but, some of the shareholders did not like the way that I ran the company. So got voted out. But that said, I've got a great relationship with Nemo to this day. They've been successful. I'm still a shareholder, and we've all made amends. But it was what drove it. Okay. And I'm telling you this, right, because I'm hoping that it'll be somewhat therapeutic for you, because I know first of all, when you're scaling, which you are, you're always in startup mode. Number one. Number two, when you're scaling, you're always cash poor, right? Because all the money goes into that scaling. Okay. And those are frustrations that are hard to overcome. Okay. I love the fact that in addition to being a great dad, okay, in addition to being ambitious and scaling your business, that you also invest in yourself personally. That's key, right? Don't put all the money back into the fucking business, right? Because you know what? You can't go, lay on the deck of your boat, of your business on the weekend, but you can go buy a boat and do that, right? And it's pretty fucking enjoyable. Or you can go buy a Forerunner and fix it all up and fucking roll it down a mountain and tell people it's for marketing's sake. When in all actuality, it was a dumb fucking mistake. And God damn it, now I got to go spend all this money trying to make that thing look good again, right? I'm sorry, I touched on something personal.
It's all good.
Yeah. But it's, guess what, though? What I love about shit like that is like, I got the money to fix this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got the money to fix it. And the money that fixes that is coming from the effort that you're putting into this business and the effort that you're putting into surrounding yourself with people in your building, in your business that are successful, like-minded, and that support your dumbass ideas. Okay? So the only other thing that you got to do is hire people, surround yourself with people that love you enough to tell you the truth. Okay?
Word. Check
Okay.
mark.
Okay. And keep those people around.
Yeah.
Because if you hire a bunch of yes men and then you hit that fucking wall, you're going to be going, dude, guys, I was checking in on you. It's like, oh, sure, I didn't want to make it negative for you. But hire somebody that's like, hey, boss, I don't think this is good, and I think this is why. Doesn't mean that you always listen to them, right? But it's good to have that balance, okay? And then beware when they stop telling you those things, because then they're checking out, okay? When they stop caring enough to tell you the truth. I call it give a shit factor. When I hire people in a company, and there are hundreds of people right now that could potentially watch this that been in companies that I've come in and either reorganized, owned, both, all the above, whatever. I call it give a shit factor. I want people that high give a shit factor, and I want a team of pirates. I want guys
Yes.
that when I come in and say, this is what I need, and this is what I have done, and this is our timeline, and if I hear they go, oh, fuck, we can't do that, guess what? Out the door. Mm-hmm. There's other companies that you can go work for. I want guys that are like, I will fucking move mountains. I'm going to cross over and into someone else's lane in this building to go get that done and hoist the fucking main sheet. Mm-hmm. We're going, right? Those are the types of people that I like in my companies. And a high give a shit factor. Mm-hmm. They ride for the brand. So, and I think you've got that here.
I think you do too.
By and large, maybe not in this room, but down for sure on the shop floor. Yeah, I'm taking shots at the guys behind the camera. They're literally loading guns as I'm saying that right now.
Oh no!
What is that thing?
Well, speaking of give a shit factor, super curious about is it Tuber?
Tuebor.
Yeah,
Tuebor. Yeah.
What's up with Tuebor?
You don't really know. No, okay. So, Tueborcoin, just go tueborcoin.com is where you can go to get more information on this. Effectively, a group of folks in the industry and myself are starting a new form of cryptocurrency for the firearm industry. And before anyone starts going, oh my God, conspiracy theories, running amok. Listen, I want you to utilize Tueborcoin as a crypto payment form if you're in this space, but I don't need your money, okay? I don't need investors, but so this is not a plea for that. This is simply just giving you information on Tueborcoin. There's a couple things that we run into in our firearm space that I have over the years. One is demonetization. Okay, this has affected all of us, whether you have a huge social media following and you got shut down because you posted firearm content and they said you were trying to sell guns or whatever frivolous bullshit reason that they've come up with. For me as a company, and this has happened to me 3 times in the history of my company, two times were major, where come in on a Wednesday morning and my controller or CFO says, hey boss, we're locked out. Our accounts are shut down. They're frozen right now. Our bank accounts. What? Yeah, they're just shut down. All of our payment gateways. They're gone. What are you talking about? I'm talking payment systems that we've been using for years and banks that we've been banking with for years who know what our business is and know what we do. All of a sudden, freeze the accounts because we're selling firearms. Mm-hmm. It's happened 3 times. 2 were major. One was, I think, 60 days to reconcile before they finally gave us our money back. So we could not take any credit card payments from our dealers, could not touch the money that was in the accounts. I mean, it just bullshit, okay? And then we've heard about, Bank of America selling or giving the information to the FBI. These are the people who are spending more than $500 on ammo or whatever. This is happening. It's happening right now, okay? Mm-hmm. And whereas I'm not traditionally a proponent of, let me put this in a digital domain, let me place that into the cloud. I like to take pieces of gold and silver and ammo and guns and put them in my gun safe where I can see them. But this is one of those moments where I was like, we need to take control in our industry and get something that the government can't touch. And, utilizing blockchain technology is the only way to get there. It really is. So we've started a cryptocurrency, and by the way, don't start rolling your eyes. I don't want to hear about the fucking Tueborcoin and it went up and oh my God, she pulled the rug out from under. Oh my gosh! So the girl that was made famous for a quote about sucking dick led you astray in your financial matters. Cry me a river, you dumb motherfucker. Right?
Seriously,
it's like
I would never even think to do that.
It's just
what?
Absurd. Okay, so the group that I'm with, again, we don't need money. Okay, we're not hurting for money. We are trying to create a solution for our industry that can protect us against demonetization. Number 1. Number 2, will allow us to put our bound book which is the ATF log that we use to transfer firearms and keep record of them, will also allow us to put that on blockchain, which we've done.
That's a big deal.
Big deal. Okay. Again, cannot be accessed by the government. And number 3 will help to fund our pro-gun, pro-constitution groups in perpetuity. Okay, and that's the critical factor. So, as a firearm manufacturer for years, I had supported the NRA. I realize that the NRA is now somewhat defunct and they're going through a much needed reorganization, and I think that's great. In the meantime, there are other bona fide pro-gun, pro-constitution organizations out there that are fighting for our rights to protect us so that we can always have firearm ownership, okay? And they need money, and they always need money. There's never enough. Once you put a check in their hand, doesn't matter what the amount is, they always need more, okay? And it's frustrated me over the years because I've donated substantially to an organization, and every time I turn around, they need more money, more money, more money. But at the same time, I realize that it's the result of being constantly under attack as well. So what Tuebor will do is transactionally. So every time you buy using cryptocurrency of any sort, or any time that you buy using your credit card, you get processing fees, right? They charge you to move that money or from here to here. As it relates to crypto, those fees, we call it gas. That gas is a lot cheaper. Okay, it's more like 3 cents a transaction versus $3 a transaction. Okay, and those little, that gas can all add up to be significant amounts of money over the several hundred thousand or multiple millions of times that the money is moved around. That money, typically in a cryptocurrency type, is then used to market that coin, right? So you've seen like the frog, I don't know what the guy's called, the frog dude that's like a meme coin or whatever. There's different companies. So right now, if you go onto Instagram, everyone's pushing XRP, XRP, XRP. Well, they're paying influencers to promote XRP, okay? So they use it for marketing. What Tueborcoin, what we're going to do is we're going to take all that money that would traditionally be used to market the currency or the coin, and we're going to give it to the pro-gun organizations, okay? And so that's what I mean in perpetuity, okay? So again, it protects our transaction history. It funds pro-gun organizations in perpetuity. It allows us to keep a digital copy that cannot be hacked, cannot be spied on or whatever by the government, bound books, which is a huge thing for us. And it's happening. And it's going to happen despite whether people, get all conspiracy related and say they don't believe in crypto and Bitcoin and all those different things. It's still going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Tuebor. I'm fortunate to have a great group of very qualified, very successful guys, from the firearm industry, that we don't need to make money in that space. So we decided to create this more as a legacy item. We just finished our audit, which is an independent audit that came out basically, and they look at everything. They do background checks on all the people that are involved. They look to see if you've been sued before. They want to know your mother's maiden name, all these different things, okay? How much our net worth is as individuals, and have we been involved in something that's pulled the rug on somebody before, and all these things.
How many cars have you stolen?
We have, well, I didn't quite get there. I was a minor at the time. Yeah, we got 100% rating on that,
Well, that's
which is pretty rare, but not surprising. I'm excited about that. So it's happening. We launch it here on January 13th. Guys, listen, if you're at home and you're going, crypto, what? I thought we were talking about guns and holsters and shit today. Keep that. That's fine. I would strongly encourage you to start looking into some form of crypto, whether it's an investment or whatever. Money is evolving. And I will say this. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. The government doesn't run anything efficiently. We all agree, okay? So can we all agree that the dollar that you have in your pocket right now, that you personally cannot affect how much that dollar is worth, that you have no control over it? But do you know who does? I'll tell you who does. Our government has full control over that. And I would argue the deep state has control over that. Okay, they can print more money and devalue that in your pocket. Didn't we just announce another $1 billion+ package going to Ukraine? Guess what? Guess what? If the U.S. was 100% in on Bitcoin, we had no more of the freaking currency that you have in your pocket. They can't just turn around and go give it away. And dilute the one that's in your digital wallet. They can't just do that, okay? They can't manipulate it. There can't be any error related to it.
They have to be responsible.
And moreover, the government doesn't run those things efficiently. So this is free of government. It's a currency that's free of government. And before people start rolling their eyes, oh my God, this is so fucking ridiculous and whatever, go and look at the history of currency. What started off as shells and rocks and became gems and precious metals then turned to notes, and those notes became currency. But that was an evolutionary process, and we are in the middle of another evolutionary process. The Trump administration, thank God, with Elon Musk and RFK and Ramaswamy, I don't know what his fucking
That one
name
guy.
is. That dude, I like him. He's a brilliant guy. They're all in on crypto. All in on crypto. So look into it.
Which tells you a lot, because after you just stated the government controlling, can't manage, etc., can't deflate the dollar, but then the new administration coming in is pro the opposite side of that.
Right.
Tells you a lot.
Right. And not anyone, you can't just go start one. There's a lot that has to happen, right? It's not like you can just say, I'm starting my own crypto. It's a very, very involved process, okay? But that said, it's an investment, but I would encourage people to look into it. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Love it. Well, this wraps up the official first episode of The Anderson Show.
Oh, this is the first?
I mean, we've had a couple runs, but we've decided that this is the first one after our
Oh, really?
blunder. So you're
Wow.
number one, baby.
Wow, thank you. I was hoping to be number one leaving here.
What an
today.
honor.
Yeah, so that's awesome, man. I appreciate
But
it.
yeah, but we're still technically rolling. But I do have. So we was talking about. You smoke cigars.
Yeah.
You got a knife, dog?
No,
I left
guy
mine
that
at the
smokes
barbecue.
cigars.
But anyways, yeah, this wraps it up.
Do you have a bigger knife on you?
Dude, I know. That's not a knife.
What in the fuck? Gee,
I get
dude,
shit every time. It's like
I could deflect a bullet with that. Like you could hide behind that thing as a shield. Holy shit! What do we got here?
These are the ones they're rolled down in Billings.
El Professor. I've been called El Professor before.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What was the setting for that?
You got to pay extra for it.
What did I say the other day? It's like, that'll cost you.
Yeah, that'll cost you. That'll cost you extra. I'm opening it. Are we cutting this thing and smoking it? Is that what we're doing?
I mean, we're not gonna smoke it all up here, but
Just
This
to
is
cut
nice.
off End of the podcast, episode 1. Would be
Yeah,
way to
fuck yeah.
End the podcast to smoke a cigar. And
we got some whiskey, but we don't have any cups.
I'm not shy. Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Oh.
Thank you.
Nice fancy Bic.
Oh, roll this. Oh, roll this. On fire.
Back to those things in your mouth again.